All right, let's dive right into another deep dive. This time, we're tackling NFL Week 9. You guys sent in some great analysis from Colin Cowherd and John Middlekauff, and we're ready to break it all down.
Yeah, some seriously interesting stuff happening out there on the field.
We're talking upsets, standout player performances, the whole 9 yards.
We're going beyond the headlines,
Yeah.
really getting into the minds of these analysts.
Exactly. See, what are the coaches thinking? How are these players performing? And what does it all mean for the rest of the season?
Big questions.
Huge questions. So let's start with the Eagles. They won against the Jaguars, which on paper isn't a surprise.
Right.
But the score, 28-23, was a lot closer than many expected.
Closer than it should have been.
Yeah, and both Cowherd and Middlekauff are pointing to coaching as a potential issue. Specifically, they're questioning Nick Sirianni's play calling.
Interesting.
They say he's a bit too fond of risky plays when maybe a field goal would be the smarter choice.
Yeah, I see that. Going for those highlight reel moments instead of playing the percentages?
Exactly. Like, remember that insane one-handed touchdown catch by Devontae Smith? Incredible play, but was it part of a larger trend of trying to force things? That's what these analysts are asking.
Risky business. But hey, speaking of risks, the Eagles did make a big move by adding Saquon Barkley to their roster.
Oh, yeah. Both Cowherd and Middlekauff were raving about him.
And for good reason. The guy's a beast. They're even comparing him to Derrick Henry.
Saying he could be the best running back in the league.
That's high praise. But Saquon Barkley has the talent to back it up. Think about what his presence could mean for the Eagles' offense. More explosive runs, better play action opportunities, maybe even less pressure on Jalen Hurts.
It's exciting to think about. Okay, now let's talk about a team facing some bigger questions. The Cowboys. They lost to the Falcons, 27-21.
Not just a loss, a total collapse.
It felt like they were their own worst enemy out there. Penalties, poor execution, even a too many men on the field penalty.
Ouch, that's embarrassing. Not a good look for a team with playoff aspirations.
And it's not just one bad game. It points to a lack of discipline and maybe some issues with coaching. Remember that whole situation with Ezekiel Elliott being benched for disciplinary reasons?
Yeah, what was that all about?
It just seemed like unnecessary drama.
Yeah, they both saw that as a sign of dysfunction within the team.
And they questioned whether that approach was actually effective.
Yeah.
Does it create distractions, send mixed messages to the players?
Right. At the end of the day, the goal is to win games. And they both felt like that disciplinary action might have actually been hindering the team's performance.
They were also pretty critical of Dak Prescott's performance in that game. Not his best day at the office.
No, not at all. They even went so far as to compare him to Tony Romo, which is not a compliment in this context.
Ouch. Basically saying that while Prescott has the physical tools, he's not showing that same level of leadership and clutch playmaking ability that Romo had. The ability to put the team on his back and win games when it matters most.
Makes you wonder if the Cowboys are going to regret giving him that big contract extension. They were also concerned about their lack of talent at running back, even before the season started, and they were spot on.
So Cowboys fans, if you're feeling a bit pessimistic right now, I wouldn't blame you. But hey, it's a long season. Anything can happen.
Right, they could turn things around. But on the topic of turnarounds, can we talk about the Cardinals? They absolutely demolished the Bears, 29-9.
Talk about a statement win.
More than just a win for the Cardinals. It exposed some serious weaknesses in the Bears. I mean, think about this. They averaged only 3.4 yards per play on offense. That's brutal.
Yeah, both analysts were pretty harsh on Justin Fields' performance at quarterback. In fact, get this, they even compared him to Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels.
Who's playing really well right now.
And who, by the way, was originally drafted by the Bears.
Oh, wow. You can't make this stuff up. It makes you question the Bears' decision-making,
Big time. Why let go of a talented young quarterback who's now thriving with another team? And it's not just the quarterback situation. Remember when they benched wide receiver Tyreek Stevens? Both Cowherd and Middlekauff questioned that move, too.
Yeah, it's like they're more focused on sending messages than on, actually trying to win games.
It's baffling. They need to figure out their priorities if they want to be competitive in this league.
Okay, so we've got the Cardinals looking good, the Bears, not so much. But let's move on to a team that's really turning heads this season. The Lions.
They're on fire.
They went into Lambeau Field and beat the Packers 24-4. Dominant performance, especially considering how tough it is to win in Green Bay. That's like the Lions' kryptonite, historically.
This win really showcases the Lions' new identity, Tough, disciplined football. They controlled the game from start to finish, even in those challenging conditions.
Reminded me of those classic New England Patriots teams under Bill Belichick.
Those guys are machines.
Yeah. Just grinding out wins, no matter the opponent or the weather. Remember how Tom Brady used to light up opponents in bad weather? Well, we saw shades of that with Jared Goff in this game.
It's like they figured out how to win ugly, which is a valuable trait in the NFL. Not always pretty, but effective.
Exactly. And then you've got Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback, who had a really rough outing, threw a pick six, and just seemed to struggle with decision-making, especially under pressure.
That's a far cry from what Packers fans are used to with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, those steady, reliable quarterbacks.
Yeah, they were questioning whether Love has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback.
He's got potential, but he's got a lot to prove. So big win for the Lions, big questions for the Packers. What does this mean for these two teams moving forward? Well, it seems like the Lions are for real.
They're playing with confidence, they've got a strong identity, and they're not afraid to go into hostile territory and get a win.
And the Packers, well, they're facing a lot of uncertainty, especially at the quarterback position.
Definitely a turning point for both franchises.
Now, let's shift gears to a game that came down to the wire. Bills versus the Dolphins. The Bills won 30-27, but it really highlighted Tua Tagovailoa's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, Tua had a decent game statistically. Completed 25 of 28 passes. He was efficient, kept the Dolphins in it, but He's not the kind of quarterback who can consistently win games with just his arm. He doesn't have that Mahomes-like arm talent.
Right, and he's not a super mobile quarterback either, which could be a problem in those colder late-season games. They compared him to Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback, and the difference in arm strength and athleticism was pretty noticeable.
Night and day.
However, you can't deny Tua's value to the Dolphins. When he's not on the field, they really struggle. He makes them competitive, even against top teams.
He's a game manager, not a game changer.
But the thing is, the Dolphins are paying him like a superstar, and both analysts question that decision.
Tough spot for the Dolphins. Tua makes them relevant, but is he worth that massive contract? It's a gamble.
And it's a question that's going to follow them all season long.
Okay, so maybe the Dolphins aren't quite ready to challenge the elite teams just yet.
Not there yet.
But they're definitely a team to watch.
Right.
Now let's talk about another close game. The Rams edged out the Seahawks, 26-20 in overtime. The big takeaway here, Matt Stafford is still a top-tier quarterback.
Vintage Stafford performance. Made some incredible throws, including that game-winning touchdown pass to Demarcus Robinson in overtime. The guy's 36 years old and still slinging it like he's in his prime.
They were comparing him to guys like Justin Herbert, saying that if you take Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson out of the equation, Stafford might be the best pure passer in the league.
Wow, that's high praise, but I can see it.
And this win wasn't just about Stafford. It also showed how good the Rams coaching staff is. They were down 20-13 going into the fourth quarter, but made the necessary adjustments to pull out the win.
Yeah, Sean McVay is a master at making those in-game adjustments. And let's not forget about the Rams defense. They're young, but they're playing with a lot of energy. And their rookie kicker, Cameron Dicker, even had 2 interceptions in this game.
Wait, the kicker?
The kicker, that's pretty unusual, to say the least. Now, on the other side, the Seahawks had some bright spots, but their quarterback, Geno Smith, made some crucial mistakes. Threw a pick-6 and had 2 other interceptions in the end zone.
Yeah, those are the kinds of plays that kill you, especially against a team as well-coached as the Rams.
And those mistakes highlight the Seahawks' biggest problem, the lack of a true franchise quarterback. They've got talent on both sides of the ball, but without consistent play at the most important position, it's hard to reach your full potential. Both analysts were saying that the Seahawks should have drafted a quarterback last year instead of sticking with Smith.
Risky move to rely on a journeyman quarterback when you're trying to build a contender.
So the Rams are looking like contenders again. The Seahawks are still searching for an identity. Now, let's quickly shift gears to college football, where we saw some interesting results. Oregon destroyed Michigan 38-17.
Domination. They were firing on all cylinders.
That win solidified Oregon's position as a legitimate national championship contender. They were dominant in all facets of the game, and it's clear they have a ton of talent.
And their coaching staff is getting the most out of that talent. They have a clear offensive identity, and the players are executing at a high level. Then there's Ohio State. They beat Penn State, but it was a lot closer than most people expected.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. And they drew a sharp contrast between Ohio State and Oregon. While Oregon seems to be firing on all cylinders, Ohio State is struggling to find its rhythm. They're leaving points on the table, and it's not clear if it's the play calling or the quarterback play that's holding them back. Maybe a bit of both.
They've been dealing with injuries, especially on the offensive line, so that could be a factor. If they can get healthy, they could certainly regain their dominant form.
We'll have to see about that. But for now, Oregon looks like the team to beat in college football.
For sure.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still more to discuss. We'll be right back with more insights and analysis.
You know, one game that really highlighted the importance of having a truly elite quarterback was that Rams-Seahawks matchup.
Oh, yeah. Nail-biter.
Rams pulling out the win in overtime.
And Matt Stafford, man, he really put on a clinic.
Some of those throws he was making.
Remember that laser beam he threw to Demarcus Robinson for the game-winning touchdown?
Oh, yeah, textbook.
And that's the difference a guy like Stafford makes compared to, say, Seattle's Geno Smith. Both teams have some serious talent on both sides of the ball, but that quarterback position...
It's a game changer.
No doubt. It's like, I don't know, having a high-performance sports car versus a reliable family sedan. Both will get you where you need to go.
But one's going to get you there in style.
Exactly. And Stafford, he's still got that high-octane performance in him, over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and that game-winning drive. Ice in his veins.
Vintage Stafford.
And he did it against a pretty solid Seattle defense, too.
Oh, yeah. Seattle's got some young, athletic guys on that defense. Well coached, too. But Stafford, he was just too much for them to handle.
Making throws that most quarterbacks wouldn't even dream of attempting.
Meanwhile, on the other side, Geno Smith.
Yeah.
Not a great day for him. He threw for over 200 yards. Those 3 interceptions.
Including the pick-6.
Those are backbreakers, man. And that's what separates the good quarterbacks from the greats, you know?
The ability to make smart decisions under pressure.
Exactly. Smith's got a strong arm. He can make some nice throws when he's got time. But when the pressure's on...
Tends to unravel a bit.
And against a defensive mind like the Rams' Raheem Morris, you know he's going to dial up the pressure.
Force those quick decisions.
And for Seattle, those decisions didn't go their way.
Now, some people might say, hey, the Seahawks are still a young team. Smith's just a temporary solution while they find their franchise quarterback. But the analysts pointed out,
You only get so many chances to build a contender.
Can't waste those opportunities by relying on a quarterback who's prone to those costly errors.
They really felt like the Seahawks missed a prime opportunity to draft a quarterback last year.
And now they're in a tough spot.
Trying to build a house on a foundation of sand.
Ouch, but true. So what does this all mean for the Rams?
They're back, baby.
They might not be the same dominant team that won the Super Bowl a few years ago.
But with Stafford at the helm,
they can beat anyone.
Any given Sunday.
Well coached, good mix of veterans and young talent, and most importantly, a quarterback who can win games.
Dangerous combination.
No doubt. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and talk about some bigger trends we're seeing this season. One thing that really jumps out at me is the importance of coaching. Think about the teams we've talked about today. The Eagles with the questionable play calling, the Cowboys who just seem like a bit of a mess.
And the Bears?
Oh, the Bears. They just need a complete overhaul.
From the top down.
And then you've got teams like the Lions and the Rams who are exceeding expectations. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to their coaching staffs.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that talent alone isn't enough in this league.
You need coaches who can develop that talent, create a winning culture, make smart decisions in crucial moments.
The whole package.
But let's not forget about the quarterbacks.
Can't win without a good one.
We've seen some young quarterbacks shine this year while others have really struggled. Where do you see this trend heading?
The NFL is a quarterback-driven league.
Always has been.
The teams that have franchise quarterbacks, those are the ones competing for championships year in and year out.
We've seen that play out in the games we've analyzed. Stafford, despite his age, still playing at an elite level. Tua, showing he can be a very effective game manager. But then you've got guys like Jordan Love who are still trying to find their footing.
And what about those college quarterbacks who are getting ready to make the jump to the NFL? We talked about Oregon's Bo Nix, Ohio State's Kyle McCord. There's a lot of hype surrounding those guys.
Big shoes to fill.
It's a whole different ball game at the next level, though. The speed of the game, the complexity of the defenses, the pressure.
It's intense.
Some guys thrive in that environment. Others, they crumble.
Takes a certain level of mental toughness, adaptability, a willingness to learn.
Not everyone can handle it.
So the future of the NFL really does rest on the shoulders of these young quarterbacks.
To a large extent, yeah.
But let's not forget about the coaches.
Right.
They play a crucial role in shaping these players, guiding their teams to success.
It's that delicate balance.
You need the talent.
But you also need the right leadership and guidance.
And that's what makes the NFL so unpredictable.
And so exciting.
You never know which teams or players are going to step up and surprise you.
That's why we love it.
I feel like this deep dive has turned into a masterclass in football strategy.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've analyzed specific games, discussed individual players, even touched on broader trends in the league.
It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture.
But you know what? I think there's one more layer we need to peel back.
Oh, well,
We've talked a lot about the X's and O's, the strategies, the stats.
you're right.
But what about the human element?
The heart of the game.
The personalities, the motivations, the stories behind these players and coaches.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Because at the end of the day, football is a game played by human beings.
With all their flaws, their strengths, their aspirations.
Okay, let's explore that a bit more. We'll be right back with more insights from the world of football. So we've spent this deep dive breaking down NFL Week 9, some key college matchups. But before we wrap up, I
Yeah.
kind of want to shift gears for a second. Talk about something we haven't really touched on yet. The human side of the game.
Right, right. It's easy to get caught up in all the X's and O's, the strategies,
The stats.
the wins, the losses.
But at the end of the day, it's important to remember that
We're talking about people.
exactly. These are human beings with stories, and those stories are just as fascinating as the games themselves.
Sometimes even more so.
Think about Saquon Barkley. We talked about his performance with the Eagles.
Yeah,
The guy is a beast, but his journey to get to this point,
not easy.
he's battled injuries, he's faced doubters, and yet here he is, arguably the best running back in the league.
I mean, that says something about his resilience,
His work ethic.
his belief in himself. He
Yeah.
could have easily given up.
But he didn't.
And now look at him.
It's inspiring, honestly, not just for athletes, but for anyone facing challenges.
Absolutely.
And then you think about a guy like Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach. Talk about pressure. He's got a talented team, a proven system.
Sky-high expectations.
Every decision he makes is scrutinized. Every play call is analyzed.
That's that guess.
Coaching at that level.
It's not just about the X's and O's.
No, it's about managing personalities,
Building trust.
inspiring players to be their best.
It's a tough job.
And let's not forget about all the players who aren't necessarily superstars, The guys fighting to stay in the league, battling injuries, maybe even facing the end of their careers.
Their stories matter too.
They might not get the headlines, but they're just as important.
It's that constant cycle, hope, disappointment, triumph, setback.
The human trauma.
And that's what makes football so compelling to watch,
Yeah.
It's not just about the games themselves, it's about witnessing these journeys.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. As you continue to follow the NFL, college football, try to look beyond the scores, beyond the highlights, appreciate the human element, get to know these players and coaches as people.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Because there's always more to learn, more to explore, more to appreciate about this game. And that's a wrap on this deep dive. We covered a lot of ground, from game analysis to the human stories behind the sport. What stood out to you the most? What surprised you? What are you going to be watching closely as the season unfolds? Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying the game.